Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and we are in week 3 and we're looking at international marketing and globalization. And now we're looking really at elements of the marketing mix and also the marketing strategy, and trying to discuss and look at the elements regarding either a standardization approach or a customization approach, or even a possibility of a combination of the two. So what is the marketing mix? The marketing mix, the choices the firm offers to its target market, is comprised of its product attributes, distribution strategy, all the different ways it can get its product to market, communication strategy, and the communication strategy or the communication mix might include your advertising, your sales promotion, your personal selling, direct sales, and public relations. Your pricing strategy, you're going to go for cost-based pricing strategy. You got market penetration and niche marketing, skimming the market, and product attributes in terms of the intangible product attributes like the brand, the non-physical side of the product, and the physical product attributes itself. But there are the extended marketing mix as well. You've got the product, price, place, promotion, and then the people, process, and physical evidence for the extended marketing mix. But here we're just looking at the standard 4 Ps: the product, price, place, and promotion. So should the marketing mix be changed for each market? Are markets and brands becoming global? Third, I'd argue that the world markets were becoming increasingly similar, making it unnecessary to localize the marketing mix. So what do you think? Is Levitt right? In some instances, yes, depending upon the marketplace and depending upon the product, and in other instances, no, and there are always changes. And even if you look at the communication, and the wording and the phrasing and so on and so forth, it could actually give a different meaning. If you take the European toilet paper that came into the UK, and that they had a Spanish-speaking presenter giving the name of the toilet paper was one sheet, but the way that the person pronounced it was one shit. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, he was supposed to be saying one sheet, but he wasn't saying that. So, there are many different instances of using the wrong language. If you look at language when, Neil Armstrong first landed on the moon, well, then he put his thumb and closest finger together to make an O, and on television he was basically saying A-OK, everything is okay. But when people in Japan saw this, well, that sign meant something else. That sign means, oh, we're in trouble, there's something going wrong. So again, can it be completely standardized? I'm not so sure, to be quite honest. But we will go and we will look at all the opinions on these. Should the marketing mix be changed for each market? The current consensus is that while the world is moving towards global markets, global standardization is not possible because of the cultural differences among nations, economic differences among nations, trade barriers, differences in product and technical standards. And I think for me, the big thing really are the cultural differences among nations. And the cultural differences for me among nations link into consumers' preferences, and those consumers' preferences link into their underlying needs. And so your product mix, your packaging, your wording, your communication, your positioning strategy needs to be in line to your target market to meet those needs. And if you're taking a standardized approach throughout the whole world, well, then maybe you're not really fulfilling different needs in different cultural and different societies, because we can't really say that every single culture, every single society for different groups and subgroups of people for that product or service has exactly the same needs, because they may differ. So for me, I'm not so sure, and that leads back into your segmentation criteria in terms of psychographic segmentation. Psychographic segmentation is really identifying the underlying needs of your target market later on when you do your targeting and then your positioning strategy. So, well, what do you guys think? Tell me. So, what is market segmentation? So, if we look at segmentation, this, you know, um, identifies distinct groups of consumers whose purchasing behavior differs from others in important ways. So, normally when we do segmentation, we segment it geographically. Is it by town, area, city, coast, country? Demographically, age, sex, social economic factors, household income, um, ABC1 type classifications. And we've got the social, cultural, the behavioural factors, and the psychological factors. So the psychological factors kind of link back in to consumers' preferences, and in terms of their underlying and ultimate needs, which a lot of times people miss out the psychological factors when they look at segmentation. They really just pick on geographic and demographic segmentation factors in their targeting. So if we looked at the marketing to Black Brazil, explores how companies are marketing to Brazil's black population. Although Brazil is home to a sizable racial minority, to date, companies have essentially ignored that market segment. And now, however, companies are beginning to target the group using products and promotions specifically developed for that market. I mean, even if you take Japan and you take IKEA, well, if you take a standardized product like the IKEA bed is 210 centimeters. Well, in Japan it's 180 centimeters. Well, why is that the case? That is the case because the beds in Japan, the people are predominantly smaller than European people on the main, and also the other important factor is that there's so little space in China and in Japan. So when you're targeting these markets, because of the little space, you want to kind of capitalize on that. So again, product differentiations do occur even for global companies. So and there are many other examples as well that we're going to look at. So, what is market segmentation? The two key market segment issues, the differences between countries in the structure of market segments, may have to develop a unique marketing mix to appeal to certain segments in a given country. The existence of segments that transcend national borders. When segments transcend national borders, a global strategy is possible. But even then, if you take IKEA and you look at their products and services that are offered, if you look at the communication mix, well, IKEA have a success story whereby they have leaflets which are sent out to customers who have visited their stores, and they've captured their information by either when people have actually purchased something or if people have gone into the store. And then you have also the IKEA booklets, which containing all their products. So you go into an IKEA store, you can pick up one of these, they're free of charge, and you can see the full range of the IKEA product range. But then additional products come out, and then changes and so on and so forth, and then these like small leaflets are actually sent. But you can't really do this in China because the amount of people, it wouldn't be cost effective in order to send out these to the vast number of people in China. So they focus on their hard-backed books in store rather than the modified small additional kind of like leaflet, 5-page, 6-page leaflet of new products and new colors and new trends and so on and so forth. So again, that is different. Their advertising on TV is different. So the words that they use is not going to be the same as they use for another country. So again, looking at the communication strategy is different. The products differ slightly, but they still differ, and there is an additional product range offered to the Chinese market that are not offered elsewhere. Why? To take into consideration the people using their small balconies, so they can sit outside on their balconies. So there's so little space in the house, in the flat itself. So again, I'm not 100% convinced that it's exactly a global strategy where all the elements of the marketing mix are the same. So how do the product attributes influence marketing strategy? The product is like a bundle of attributes. Products sell well when the attributes match consumers' needs. If the consumer needs were the same everywhere, a firm could sell the same product worldwide. But consumer needs depend on the culture, the tradition, the social structure, language, religion, education, and these influence. Again, using the example of Coca-Cola, even if you use of IKEA, even if you use Coca-Cola and you look at the advertising messages may differ from country to country, and even the range of products that Coca-Cola offer in some countries to other countries, they don't offer the full range. In the US you might go up to a 5 litre bottle of Coca-Cola, but in the UK you won't have that. Hi baby.
Hello, what are you doing?
Nothing much, just videoing.
You at home?
Yeah, I'm at home.
Do you have your jacket?
Mummy's got the jacket.
Oh, okay.
No, the jacket's here, yes.
Okay, cool. It's a bit tight around the waist, Daddy.
Yeah, well, yes.
Can we do a medium? Okay, alright, I'll come pick it up in a bit.
Okay then, baby.
Bye.
Love you, bye. So, how do the product attributes influence marketing strategy? Level of economic development. Consumers in highly developed countries tend to demand a lot of extra performance attributes. Consumers in less developed nations tend to prefer more basic products. And product and technical standards. National differences can force firms to customize the marketing mix. And I believe that is the case in a lot of instances. And, having worked for different companies, having seen how the marketing mix differs from country to country, and even a modification of the product. And we've seen this worldwide. So I think that how does the distribution influence the marketing strategy? Well, distribution strategy, this means the firm chooses for delivering the product to the consumer. How a product is delivered depends on the firm's market entry strategies. Firms that produce locally can sell directly to the consumer, to the retailer, or even to the wholesaler. Firms that produce outside the country have the same options, plus the option of selling, through an import agent. So again, there are different options in terms of, distribution, but that's going to have to link in to, again, that we looked at before in terms of the degree of risk and the degree of control that one wants, and the risk associated with the cost of invention, the money that a company needs to invest into this financial direct investment, and and how much control they want. So, it's a balancing act, and this needs to be linked into their marketing strategy. So we can see in this diagram a typical distribution strategy. You have the manufacturer inside the country who can, either go to the wholesaler, distributor, the retailer, or to the final consumer now online. And you have the manufacturer outside the country who can have the same options in terms of the wholesale distributor, retail distributor, and the final customer, but also you've got the import agent as well. So there are different options available. So how do distribution systems differ? Well, there are four main differences in distribution systems. You have, concentrated system, common in developed countries, Contributing factors increase in car ownership, number of households with refrigerators and freezers, and two-income households. You have a fragmented system, common in developing, countries. Contributing factors include great population density with large number of urban centers, just like Japan, uneven or mountainous terrain like Nepal. In terms of the channel length, the number of intermediaries between the producer and the consumer. A short channel where the producer sells directly to the consumer, common and concentrated systems, and a long channel where the producer sells through an import agent, a wholesaler, and a retailer, common with fragmented retail systems. And the question is, why would you sell through an import agent, a wholesaler, and a retailer? Well, you would do that because there are different types of distribution systems. Hi, baby. Tom, Anthony. I'm just going to finish this off, yeah? I'm just talking at the moment. So if we think about going into a country, sometimes you have the multiple outlets. So if we take the UK, you have multiple outlets, like Halfords, B&Q's, Texas, and then you have independent outlets for, let's say, take the automotive industry. And if someone wanted to import automotive auto accessories into the UK, well, they could use an import agent to sell directly to the multiple retail outlets. And then or you could go direct to the multiple retail outlets yourself. And you could also go to a wholesaler. And what is the purpose of going to a wholesaler? Well, the purpose of going through a wholesaler is basically to target the independent trade, because in the independent trade not only are there multiple retail outlets, but you have independent retail outlets who may just own one or two shops. You have the and then you have smaller multiple outlets with which owns 10 or 15 stores, like A1 Motor Stores, Motor World. And you have different groups of different people who will be classified as the independent trade. And then you will have another category of types of retailers who will be the multiple retail outlets. So again, in order to get maximum, so how do distribution systems differ? 3, channel exclusivity, how difficult it is for outsiders to access. Japan's system is a very exclusive system, so it is very difficult to access this channel distribution. And channel equity, the expertise, competences and skills of established retailers in a nation, and their ability to sell and support the products of international businesses. So goods in most developed countries, but variable in emerging markets, are less developed country. So firms may have to devote considerable resources to upgrading the channel quality. So again, we look at Japan. Exclusive systems, because personal relations, often decades old, play an important role in stocking products, and it's difficult for a firm to get shelf space as compared to an old firm within that distribution center. So which distribution strategy should a firm choose? Well, the optimum strategy depends on the relative costs and benefits of each alternative. And in addition to that, you need to link in your marketing strategy, because after you've done your segmentation and then you develop your targeting from your segmentation categories, then you need to adopt your positioning strategy. Having done your situation analysis of, your Pestel and SWOT and Porter's 5 forces, then you would need to position yourselves in relation to your competitors. How are you going to position that? Because your positioning strategy would then influence your marketing mix, how the product is going to be designed, what are the product features, functionality, what is the communication strategy, what message are you trying to get across, how are you trying to position this. So again, the optimum strategy does depend on relative cost and benefits of each alternative, but it also needs to link in to your marketing strategy. So when price is important, a shorter channel is better. Each intermediary in the channel adds its own markup to the product. When the retail sector is fragmented, a long channel can be beneficial. Economies of selling costs can offer access to exclusive channels. So why is communication strategy important? Communication product attributes to prospective customers is a critical element of the marketing mix. How a firm communicates with customers depends partly in the choice of channel. Communication channels available to a firm include direct selling, sales promotion, direct marketing, advertising. So in terms of the communication mix, you have advertising, sales promotion, public relations, which are very important, direct sales, and personal selling. So again, with public relations, it's becoming ever more important with the use of social media. And also, if you're trying to get into a wholesaler, if you're trying to get into a retailer, but then the advertising is going to be different from your communication message to the direct selling into the wholesaler and retailer, because you would have specific trade magazines. So the trade magazines, you would have a different message to those potential buyers as you would have a different message to the end consumer, because to the buyers, you want to get your product stocked in their stores. So all of these are going to have an impact in terms of your communication strategy. What are the barriers to international communication? The effectiveness of a firm's international communication can be jeopardized by cultural barriers. It can be difficult to communicate messages across cultures. A message that means one thing in one country may not necessarily mean quite the same thing in another. Firms need to develop cross-cultural literacy and use local input when developing marketing messages. I gave you the example before of one sheet, and I couldn't believe how it was being pronounced by this Spanish guy on TV. So again, very, very, very difficult. If we look at the source and country of origin, receiver of the message evaluates the message based on the status or image of the sender. Anti-Japanese wave in the US in 1990s. Place of manufacturing influences product evaluations, often used when the consumer lacks the detailed knowledge of the product. Examples: French wines, Italian clothes, and German luxury cars. Again, we're looking at all of these and we're saying to ourselves, the message will differ. Other barriers to international communication: source and country of origin effects. Source effects occur when the receiver of the message evaluates the message on the basis of status or image, as we said before, and can counter negative source effects by de-emphasizing their foreign origin. Some people don't like that. And again, if we look at America and we look at China, with Trump recently, coming out of office, there've been a lot of trade barriers that had been increased by the US against China, and in retaliation, China has increased their trade barriers by up to 25% in some market sectors. And the rhetoric of Donald Trump with the Chinese stealing their intellectual property rights, copying goods, has a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment. So again, de-emphasizing their foreign origins might be important when you're trying to sell a Chinese good in the US at that time when Donald Trump was in office. So country of origin affects the extent to which the place of manufacture influence product evaluations. And the noise levels, the amount of other messages competing for a potential customer's attention. In highly developed countries, noise is very high. In developing countries, noise levels tend to be lower. So we're saying basically there's loads of advertising. Look, you just think about all the different types of advertising means. The advertising means including, billboards, TV advertising, magazine advertising, and all the different types of magazines to different types of people. You're talking about bus back advertising, side of the bus, back of the bus, billboard advertising. You're talking about bus station and poster advertising, tube advertising. You have advertising left, right, and centre. In addition to that, you have all the social media advertising and public relations. You have exhibitions and so on and so forth. So, so that does need to be taken into consideration in terms of the amount of noise or the amount of competitiveness and all the people undertaking advertising in different forms. So, how do firms communicate with customers? Firms may have to choose between two types of communication. Either a push strategy emphasizes personal selling, or a pull strategy emphasizes mass media, advertising. So, which is better, a push or a pull? The choice between strategies depends on the product type and consumer sophistication. A pull strategy works well for firms in consumer goods, selling a large market segment. A push strategy works well for industrial products. Channel length will have an impact. A pull strategy works better for longer distribution channels, whereas media availability, a pull strategy relies on access to advertising media, and a push strategy may be better, when media is not easily available. So a pull strategy, seen for consumer goods, large market segments, long distribution channels, and mass communication has cost advantages. And as regards to a pull strategy, we're talking about industrial products, complex new products. Direct selling allows firms to educate users. Short distribution channels, used in poor nations, for consumer goods, when direct selling is the only way to reach the end consumer. Likewise, the pull strategy, long or exclusive distribution channels such as Japan, and mass advertising to generate demand to pull product through various layers, and a pull strategy in countries with low literacy levels. So, what is the optimal mix? In general, a push strategy is better for, as we said before, industrial complex products. Distribution channels are short, few in print, electronic media available. And a pull strategy for consumer goods, when distribution channels are long, when sufficient print and electronic media are available to carry the marketing message. So if we look at the example of Unilever selling to India's poor, explores Unilever's innovative global marketing strategy. Unilever maintains a substantial presence in many of the world's poorest nations, where low income levels, unsophisticated consumers, illiteracy, and fragmented retail distribution system, and unpaved roads make marketing difficult. Still, the company has managed to succeed thanks to its effort to customize its marketing strategy to the local market. And this is where I think, for me personally, that I think to some degree or another you need to adopt customization to meet, as I said, meet the needs of your target audience. Otherwise, other companies will be gaining an advantage over you by successfully targeting or meeting the needs of their target customers better than you can. Should a firm use standardized advertising? Standardized advertising makes sense when it has a significant economic advantage and creative talent is scarce, and one large effort to develop a campaign will be more successful than numerous smaller efforts, and brand names are global. Yes, again, to an extent. If we look at Levi Strauss, goes local, explores Levi Strauss, the manufacturer of blue jeans, changed its international marketing strategy to regain its competitive in the mid-2000s. Levi had watched its sales fall from 7.1 billion in 1996 to just 4 billion in 2004. The company had failed to keep up with changes in the fashion market and was out of touch with its consumers. A three-part turnaround strategy was implemented, and the company has experienced a turnaround. But this wasn't just due to taking a standardized approach. It's very difficult just to take a standardized approach in every single market, in every single country worldwide. So again, I think that it needs to be thought about because it can lead to decreasing sales, as seen in the case of Levi jeans. Should a firm use standardized advertising? Advertising does not make sense when cultural differences among nations are significant, and I absolutely agree with that. And advertising regulations limit standardized advertising. Some forms standardize parts of a campaign to capture the benefits of global standardization, but customize others to respond to local culture and legal environments. So, when we look about pricing strategy, should firms use, you have got price discrimination, you've got strategic pricing, and regulators that affect pricing decisions. So what is price discrimination? Price discrimination occurs when firms charge consumers in different countries different prices for the same product. For price discrimination to work, you must be able to keep national markets separate. Countries must have different price elasticity of demand. So then it can work as long as you can keep these products separate. Price elasticity of demand, a measure of the responsiveness of demand for a product to changes in price. So demand is elastic when a small change in price produces a larger change in demand, and demand is inelastic when a large change in price produces only a smaller change in demand. Typically, price elasticity is greater in countries with lower income levels and larger numbers, of competitors. So, when we're thinking about elastic or inelastic, we're thinking of one. So, if it goes beyond one, it's more elastic, and it's less than one, it's inelastic. Here we see this chart here of what is price discrimination. Inelasticity of demand and elasticity of demand. So what is strategic pricing? Strategic pricing has three aspects. Predatory pricing, use profit gained in one market to support aggressive pricing designed to drive competitors out in another market. And after the competitors have left, the firm will then raise prices and earn higher profits. Multi-point pricing, a firm's pricing strategy is one market may have an impact on a rival's pricing strategy in another market. Managers should, centrally monitor pricing decisions. And, we see these pricing decisions all the time in our own markets. Experience curve pricing, price low worldwide in an attempt to build global sales volume as rapidly as possible, even if this means, taking large losses initially. Firms that are further along the experience curve have a cost advantage relative to firms further up the curve. So continuing this, how do regulations influence pricing? So a firm's ability to set prices may be limited by, anti-dumping regulations. Dumping occurs when a firm sells a product or price that is less than the cost of producing it. Anti-dumping rules, set the floor under export prices and limit a firm's ability to pursue strategic pricing. And we've seen this in the UK. We've seen this with China and the UK with anti-dumping, with excessive steel that China have left over, and they are selling it to the UK at a lower cost than it cost them to produce. But they're not allowed to do this because of these anti-dumping regulations in the UK. Competition policy. Most industrialized nations have, regulations designed to promote competition and restrict monopolistic practices, and can limit the prices that a firm can charge. So again, monopolistic. If a company had a monopoly, like BT did in the 1980s, it was the only telephone you had. A telephone line in your house, it was BT. So if they could charge whatever price they want. If you decided not to have it, you decided to have the BT phone or not to have a BT phone. You decided to communicate by telephone. There was no form of communication apart from writing a letter. or talking to someone if they lived next door to you. So again, the amount of prices a company could increase it by would be restricted in terms of competition policy. How should a firm configure the marketing mix? Well, standardized versus customization is not at all or nothing concept. Most firms standardize some things and customize others, and I kind of agree with this. I think that you have to have a degree of standardization and a degree of customization, and I think you need to mix the two together to get the optimum that works for you to get the maximum sales. But you'd only know that over time by trial and error as well. So firms should consider the costs and benefits of standardizing and customizing each element of the marketing mix. And the other thing here is to not just looking at each element. Each element is not individual. Each element is linked together. So the marketing mix and all the different elements are linked together to achieve your marketing strategy. And your marketing strategy is your segmentation, your targeting, and then your positioning. Your positioning strategy in relation to your competitors. So why is new product development important? Product innovation should be a strategic priority. Today, competition is as much about technological innovation as anything else. The pace of technological change is faster than ever, and product life cycles are often very short. New innovations can make existing products obsolete, but at the same time open a door to a host of new opportunities. Firms need close links between R&D, marketing, and manufacturing, and you need to look at these to say, what new products, because the lifeblood of any company are new products. And so when you're talking about new product, you need to have a new product development program in place, and so many companies do not have or do not know how to regularly develop systematically new products. Being in companies where they have ad hoc and they have ideas of new products coming in, where the directors have a board meeting and they look at the new products and then they say they like this, this and this, but they don't have a systematic approach within companies to generate products and new product development, which is extremely important and I would say lacking. Where should R&D be located? New product ideas come from the interactions of scientific research, demand conditions and competitive conditions. The rate of new product development is greater in countries where more money is spent on the basic and applied research and development, where the demand is strong, consumers are affluent, and competition is actually intense. So how can R&D, marketing and production be integrated? Well, since new product development has a high failure rate, new product development efforts should involve close coordination between R&D, marketing and production. Integration will ensure that customer needs drive production, product development. New products are designed to ease of manufacture. Development costs are kept in check and time to market is minimized. But again, this comes down to having a new product development program within your company, and in a new product development program you have people who are part of the R&D, people who are part of the marketing, people who are part of production, and people part of customer services, who can then come together to be part of this new product development team. It can't be just marketing developing new products. It needs to be a range of different people all put together, and that way you have the interaction to see what is possible within your company and what is not possible. Why are cross-functional teams important? Well, cross-functional integration is facilitated by cross-functional product development teams. Effective cross-functional teams should be led by heavyweight project managers with status in the organization, include members from all critical function areas, agree with that 100%, have members located together, establish clear goals and develop an effective conflict resolution process. You need to have this process, as I've said before. I mean, I worked for the first company that I worked for was Metro Products, and we went on this SWORD program to develop new products, and the SWORD program was funded partly by the government and partly by our company, and it was a lot of money. And we went through this 6-month process and we came up with 500 new product ideas, from which we launched 20 products onto the UK marketplace into the major retail outlets, and the company turned over 21 million pounds back in the 1990s. So again, I can't tell you how important it is for this, you know, new product development process to be put in place, to have different teams, to have people leading them, and to have people from across different functions to be part of the team. You need to have different people from different functions to be part of that team in order for it to be successful. How can firms build global R&D capabilities? The adequate, commercialize new technologies. Firms need to integrate R&D and marketing. Absolutely agree with this. To successfully commercialize new technologies, firms may need to develop different versions of 4 different countries. So a firm may need R&D centers for North America, Asia, and Europe that are closely linked by formal and informal integration mechanisms, with marketing operations in each country in their regions, and with various manufacturing facilities. So thank you today for Mr. Tan. I hope this has helped. We've kind of looked at the marketing mix. You have to remember that in the marketing mix, the product, price, place, and promotion, there is the extended marketing mix of the people, process, and physical evidence, which are also important. And you have to remember that the marketing mix links back into the marketing strategy, which is your segmentation in terms of the geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioralistic segmentation. And people often miss out the psychographic segmentation, which is underlying the consumer's preferences and people's needs, which then you decide who you're going to target. And once you've done your targeting, you decide how you are going to position your product in that marketplace in relation to your competitors. And then you look at your marketing mix to achieve your marketing strategy. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.